Hey everyone, my name is Ian and welcome back to our two-part series of the beta booster and starter deck opening. And today now we're going to be doing the starter deck, which has 60 beta cards in it. And we'll let Adam and Todd go ahead and start opening it for you guys.
Great, so we've got a beta deck here on display. This is an unopened starter. It's in really nice condition. I'm going to let Adam explain some of the differences between alpha and beta. We have an alpha here for comparison.
Okay, so alpha and beta decks, they look almost identical. The only difference is if you look at the bottom of this beta deck, there's a UPC code. And then we're going to move this out of the way. And so here we have an alpha starter deck. Everything looks the same except the bottom. It's completely blank. So that's how you tell the difference between alpha and beta. Okay.
Yeah, one of the many corrections between alpha and beta. So I'm going to move the alpha aside here. And we're going to do a deck opening. Right. So, wow, here we go. Let's see. So, there's a couple different ways that we could tackle this. One may be to just slit the top or pull it apart.
I think there's a little...
You can also use the pull tab.
Yeah, just...
Yeah.
Just find
pull tab, it kind of reminds me of opening a pack of cigarettes. But I actually, I want to go in from the top. I want to go from the top here. Yeah, it kind of doesn't matter so much on the outside. I think we're going to be a lot more careful when it comes to the inside. But, it comes right off. It's a little messy. It's supposed to be messy.
That's out of the way.
Awesome. All right, so.
This look like quite a nice stack right there.
Oh, yeah. Interior here. Opening up the two. Pull it out.
We've got an uncommon forest so far.
An uncommon forest, yeah. So in the starter, the uncommons are typically on the top. Rares are down near the booklet, and commons underneath the booklet. So we're going to cut this very carefully. First, we're going to flip it. We're going to cut this very carefully along the booklet edge.
All right, so I think you can insert this side and go around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go here.
So I think you just push in with the knife and then...
This is something where it pays to take your time and do it right.
Yeah. It is a very expensive deck.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, I think this deck goes for about $6,000 to $7,000. I would say $7,000 is retail value. So. And I think for anyone that likes collecting sealed product, alpha and beta starters, it's a good way to go because it's guaranteed that the population of these things only go down, right? Because as people open them, I mean, they're not printing any more of them, and people are opening them all the time. So, notice how careful Todd is with this.
Like a surgeon.
I think I'm definitely not as careful.
Well, what's making this hard is there's a little cellophane seal that's on the bottom here that I want to work around without doing any damage. So...
Right, he's trying to avoid having to pull on it, and which can damage the edges or the corners. Right? So, because obviously the difference between the price difference between a 9.5 and a 10 is pretty big. You got it. Can you just pull it off now? All right. on the commons while you work on the rest, I guess. So, yeah, it looks like that top card right there. You can see that. Well,
yeah.
I'll show it. So
yeah, please. Yeah, please go ahead.
The commons.
Yeah, take the.
Everything behind the book. Okay. So I'll just go through and find anything that's notable. Well, well, you can see this card right here. This is the last card. The last card, and you can see the edges were already damaged. So this is probably just from the cards bouncing around. And
exactly,
deck,
like
right?
inside the deck.
So I saw the top rare here.
Okay.
Because it was actually behind the book this time, and usually it's in front of the book. So I guess they're a little bit inconsistent with what's happening. So
we'll just put aside these two.
If you look at this, these are the two rares. If you look at this, they actually have alpha corners, right? So we can tell that we actually got alpha rares, which is, I mean, this happens.
It's extraordinary, but
sometimes. Yeah. So we have a beta deck with alpha rares. So these are. So we'll visit these later.
Yes, we will.
Okay, so this is a tear. This is the card that was a little damaged at the top. So probably don't need to get this graded.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Okay, so we'll put it aside. Let's put it over here. Okay, so I'm going to fan through these and look for anything interesting. Let's see, Drain Life. This was played.
I used this actually quite extensively when I was playing in tournaments in the late 90s because it's great. You swing for life with your opponent, and so you're not just damaging him, you're helping yourselves.
Here's a nice one. Very popular card. Yeah. Lightning Bolt still sees play every time it's reprinted, right?
Yeah.
Let's see, we got Circle Protection, cycle of these, right? The black one was left out in alpha, but included in beta. Another Blue Elemental Blast. Let's see, some repeats from our
Fog. Yeah, I think finding that in quality is a little difficult. I found the centering on Fog can be challenging.
Let's see.
Not that Fog was super played with back in the day. So
yeah. I mean, it sees play whenever sometimes like Turbo Fog decks.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. COP red. Let's see. I guess nothing. Oh, here we go. Wild Growth. And Legacy Enchantress players still play this card. So everything else kind of just nothing that you would really play, but those are nothing too notable for the commons, right? So
yeah. So let me show here on camera the rule book, which may be slightly damaged through my opening, but that's the point. Let the rule book take the damage and put that aside and flip these over. And we have an uncommon forest. We have another counter spell with the typical problem of the centering here.
Left to right. And you can see that left edge, or the right edge is very small. Right?
Yeah. So, Consecrate Land. Augury.
This is a low pop card.
All right. Tsunami. Badly off-centered. Steel Artifact.
Looks like these are all pretty off-center from left to right. Probably came from the same sheet, right? They were all...
Yeah. They're all, yeah. Bunch of Malajusts. Here we go.
Yeah, Hurricane, also a low pop card. Oh, nice one.
That one looks sense.
So we pulled here, Sarah Angel.
Yeah, this is a very popular card. Some would say probably the best creature in Alpha, right? Or at least back in the day.
Yeah.
Playing. I mean, now it's probably Birds of Paradise, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think anything too notable other than the Sarah, right?
Yeah, I think the Sarah.
Okay, so we'll go to the rares. You can see there. You want to do the honors?
Yeah, absolutely. So would you mind moving those cards for a second?
Sure.
Great. so
well, the top card I already saw, so you
Okay.
you want to just turn both around.
Yeah, I'll
so
turn.
that, right. Okay, power surge, and pretty nice.
Yeah, so let's talk about this Power Surge. This is not a card that I've ever played with.
Yeah, it's a rare, but you can see that this one has some edge damage at the very top.
Yeah,
So
what a shame.
yeah,
But the Shivan is our draw of the day.
it's a very popular card from the 90s, right?
It's an Alpha Shivan, basically mint out of the starter.
Right. Alpha Shivans have pretty big centering problem. I think it's a pop 5 for Alpha.
Okay.
I'm going to take a look at this one just to see. You can see that. You can see let's see, left to right.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely the right side is bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully it's within the 45-55 that maybe it can still qualify for 9 or 9.5 centering.
Yeah.
So.
We'll see. Well, that was an awesome draw.
Yeah.
Really great. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. All right, welcome back. We are now going to go through a couple of the cards, or the graded cards from the Beta Starter Deck.
Yeah. Actually, this starter came back with a lot better results than the booster. And again, I think the reason is because maybe the storage of the booster wasn't optimal. And so since the starter is inside, a case, it was handled a lot better. Okay. We actually ended up with, 19 9.5s that had a 9 subgrade, and then 13 9.5s that had all 9.5 subs or better, and then a single 10. So we had 33 out of the 60 cards graded 9.5 or better, so that's about 55%. If you watched an earlier video that I did, we had, I think, 24 out of 60 cards from an alpha deck, so you can see that beta, or at least from this one sample, we got a lot better results from beta. Okay, so again, if you didn't see the first part of this video and you see all these cards, they were graded using a service called Raw Card Review. They're $10 per card at shows, and then you can pay an additional $5 to have the subs, and then Beckett will honor the grades. And so if you don't want to mail your cards in, you can go to a show and get your cards graded. So we'll just take a look at these real quick. This is the lowest graded card, and it's a bog wraith. You can see the centering is quite miserable on it, 7.5. But the other subs are quite nice. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to go through and just pick out anything that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have a power surge. This is one of our alpha rares. So I'm going to talk about this real quick. Some of the beta decks were hand-packed, so that means people actually inserted alpha rares into them. And whenever we were opening this, the two rares should be in front of the book, but they were actually behind the book. So when I saw this card, I was quite surprised, and I immediately looked at the corners to check to see if they were alpha, because it was something out of the ordinary. And remember, there was some edge damage on this card, and so shouldn't really say damage, but there was maybe a small nick, and then it ended up getting an 8.5 on the edges. So this is one of our rares. Okay, counterspell. Of course, another card that we got in the booster as well. This one's centering is a little bit worse than the other one, and I think the other one had 8.5 centering, and this one has 8 centering. So. Okay, just a pretty iconic card, Lightning Bolt, 8.5 overall. Take a look at the subs. Actually, I didn't look at that card in that much detail, but I got an 8 surface, so maybe it got dinged up somewhere. And then here we have a 9 Sarah Angel. Probably one of the 2 most iconic creatures in Magic, the other one being the rare that we pulled, which was the Ship and Dragon, right? And then we can take a look at the subs. Pretty nice card overall. Okay, and then I'll just show an example of a 9 that has that has a 9 subgrade. So you can look at this card right here. You can see that the requirements for 9 centering is 55-45 both ways. So it doesn't have to be completely centered each way. And so this card is obviously off both ways and received a 9 on centering. And we can take a look at, let's see, this forest. It got all 9-5 subs or better. The centering was a 9-5, and you can tell that it's 50-50 left to right, and the top to bottom is just off a little bit for the subs. Okay, and then we got a single 10. This was just a basic mountain. But still can't complain about any 10, right? And the subgrades had a 9.5 on corners. And then I guess saving our key rare for last, right? So here's the Shivan Dragon, and it did get a 9.5 overall, which is pretty fantastic since Shivan is, I think, has a 5 population right now in alpha, and it's one of the other cards that I mentioned earlier as one of the most iconic cards in Magic. And now I guess once this gets slabbed, it'll be a pop 6. And here are the subgrades on it. So it had 9 corners. Generally the biggest problem with alpha cards. So it's actually this card, if you look at the centering, it's a little bit off left to right. And when I first saw it, I said, it would be close, maybe 9, maybe 9.5, pick 9, but I wasn't sure just by eyeballing it, but I guess it was just within the 55-45. And like a lot of the time, people will ask me, my card has 9 centering, it's clearly better than that 9.5. Why is that the case? Well, I think it just has to do with the way that Beckett defines what is 9.5 and what is 9. So 9 requires 55-45 both ways, and 9.5 requires 50-50 one way, either top to bottom or left to right, and then 55-45 the other. So let's say that you have a card that's 51-49 both ways. It's actually very close to a 10, but by the definition of a 9, I mean, that has to be a 9, right? Whereas if you have a card that's 50-50 one way and 55-45 another way, it's actually quite a bit off. 55-45, you're talking about 25 or 22%. One side is 22% larger than the other side. So I don't know how it's done in sports cards, but for Magic, I mean, a 9.5 could actually look, more off-centered than a 9. So I mean, I think that answers the question that a lot of people ask about that. Okay. Now I'm going to go over another set of cards that one of my friends lent me, owned by a collector, and I'm going to talk about what or how or why these cards are difficult to grade and the grades that they're in. Okay, so this is a set of BGS graded Moxes from Alpha. They're all from Alpha, and you can see the first card is a Sapphire. There's only one Sapphire graded 9.5 in the world. This is obviously not it, but this is still a very nice Sapphire. It has 5 corners and then 10 edges, and you can see that it has 8.5 surface. And the reason being that there's a print spot right there. You can see it. It's pretty pronounced, right? And then there's another very tiny one up there that's harder to see, but because of those two, generally they always receive an 8.5 or lower on surface. Okay, then we have a Mox Ruby. This card it has all 9.5 subgrades. It's pretty difficult to achieve for any Power 9 and pretty sought after. All the hardcore collectors, they want their Power 9 and all 9.5 subs or better. Then we have a Mox Emerald. This is a little bit easier to get in all 9.5 subs, but this one has a 10 as well. And so I'd say that this is probably the easiest one to find in all 9.5 subs or better for the Moxes. And then here we have a Mox Jet, graded in 9.5. This is one of 3 in the world rated 9.5. This card has a lot of centering issues, and over 50% of them would have a print dot right at that point. And this one does not have it, obviously, since it has 10 surface. But overall, very nice card. The left to right, has a lot of issues traditionally, and this one is just within the 55-45 needed to make a 9. So it looks pretty off, but it's just within. And then lastly, we have a Mox Pearl. This is probably, aside from the Jet and the Sapphire, so out of the other 3 Moxes, this is probably the hardest one to find in quad 9.5 or better. And most people don't know, but I think over 50% of Pearls will have 2 print dots on the back that are extremely faint. But I mean, this one obviously doesn't have it since it has 10 surface.
Yeah.
All right, that concludes our segment.
Yeah.